Hello.
Hello,
Can you tell us who you are?
I'm Ana Rewakowicz. I am an artist and I work with scientists at this moment at l'École Polytechnique in Paris and working on a project of collecting water from fog.
You live in Paris.
I live between Paris and Montreal.
What kind of art are you doing?
I do interdisciplinary art. For more than 10 years, I've been very much involved in making inflatable structures and making performances, installations, and design of things that, in a sense, as I say, create a platform for social interactions. And very much I've been motivated and inspired by in a belief in technology for making a social transformation and change that really started in the 60s. And I was very much interested in the architectural groups from the 60s, especially Archigram from UK. And really, I think that there were many wonderful ideas already in the 60s, and especially the relation between technology and society and environment, because that's these groups in the 60s, they already been talking about the environment and the relationship that we have to it. So those ideas have been inspiring me for many, many years. And now it's an exciting collaboration that I'm in with scientists.
In the 60s, I think that you have a quote in your website from Buckminster Fuller, right?
Yeah, Buckminster Fuller, yes. Buckminster Fuller developed the concept of design science, and basically in his ideas, design is not very specific to specific discipline. But it's a creative process, and we're all, in a sense, are capable of. We are all creators in whatever way one can think. But in his design science concept, he developed the idea that intentions, every sort of creation starts from intentions, and intentions comes from the life experiences, and then you have to take that through the process of realization. And the process of realization, you have it is necessary to have also a process of evaluation. And he saw science as a most comprehensive and kind of systematic and rigorous system which allows you to evaluate the ideas. And in his concept of design science, there's no such a thing as failure, because every time if you start working on ideas and you arrive to the point and you realize that it didn't work the way that you anticipated, it just means you have to start again. So it's kind of like a process of evolution. I'm not sure this is the quote. Oh no, yes, now I'm sorry, I remember my quote. Buckminster Fuller quote is that when I work on a problem, I don't think about beauty, but when I finish and I find a solution is not beautiful, then I know it's wrong.
That's the quote.
Yes,
Yes.
that's the quote.
Very interesting. So can you tell us a little bit more about the inflatable structure you have been doing?
Yes. I've been making, for example, I did a sleeping bag dress. So it's a kimono type dress that when it changes, when it inflates, it changes into a cylinder in which people can sleep in. And I was very much influenced by the idea of clothing for living in, which Archigram developed. So it's the idea of clothing that it can be portable and it can provide a shelter in this case of the sleeping bag dress. And I did many walking performances in different places, including Mexico City, Brussels, Toulouse, and Tallinn. Yes, and I had interaction with people. I had interactions with people in Mexico City where I asked them to invite me to their favorite places. And we occupied those places in the sleeping bag dress, and then we had different kind of exchanges. in the language of their choice. That was the important part of the deal. So at that time I didn't speak Spanish, but for me, being in a very close, because it's a body size of the environment, so it's quite an intimate environment. So for me it was just as important that people were able to express themselves in the language of their choice. And it was very interesting because for example, I came across a Mexican guy who, when he found out that I come from Poland, was so excited and started to, so we had a conversation in Polish, for me, with a Mexican guy, which was very, very, very interesting. And there was another experiences of this German girl that basically from Austria, who lived in Mexico for many years, and she made a very interesting comment about the relationship between language and body. And she was saying that for her, English, it's kind of, she was comparing English to the size of my sleeping bag dress, where she was comparing Spanish to the size of the universe. So it was an interesting correlation, a comparison.
And also you was mentioning before social transformation.
Yes.
What that means for you?
Social transformations, well, I think it's difficult to describe what it means. I mean, it starts with the interaction with the other, and it starts from listening to the other, and it starts from being attentive to what the other says. I mean, maybe that's how I can see it, because I can extrapolate and think about politics today, and I think that's precisely, or even environment, we are missing that listening factors. And actually what brings to my mind now, because I was reading about gardens and gardening, and Gilles Clément, philosopher and a gardener, French philosopher and a gardener, made the quote that gardening, it really involves very little intervention, and kind of involves observation and very little impact. And I think we're missing that in the world. We're missing that ability to listen and observe, and not necessarily intervene or control it. I think that's maybe another word of saying it.
You were presenting in Balance and Balance a few years ago, right?
No, I was supposed to. I actually never arrived to Australia, but yes, I was supposed to present a piece in Australia, but I didn't make it.
But here?
No.
No? Then we cut that part. Can you tell us a little bit about your new works?
Yes. The project that I'm working on now is called the Mist Collector Project, and it involves a collaboration with scientists, with physicists at l'École Polytechnique in Paris. And it basically, project involves looking at different sources of water, and particularly in the regions where there is a lot of precipitation and not a lot of groundwater. So we are looking at the driest places in the world, such as Atacama Desert or Sub-Saharan area, like in Morocco. But there's also many other parts of the world where fog actually becomes the only source of water. And there are whole ecosystems that both plants and animals that have been developed based on that access to water. So collecting water from fog, it's not necessarily new. There's been a Canadian company, actually, FogQuest, that have been, since more than 10 years, have been developing using a mesh that is being stretched and put in the path of the wind to collect water. But the problem is, and even traditionally, people long before have been using like fishing nets to collect water from fog. The problem is with where we are now, that there's a lot of problem with blockage and then drainage. So even that you have certain, you are able to collect water from fog, but there haven't been scientific studies of the efficiencies of that process. So what we are taking upon ourselves as a challenge is whether how it is possible to improve efficiency. And through the art and science collaboration, I first was invited to be an artist in residence at École Polytechnique, and I started to work with Camille Duprat, a physicist. And through that collaboration, we came with the concept of the forest of fibers, which basically involves working with parallel fibers. So we are getting rid of the grid and we are working with parallel fibers to see if that is going to be able to increase the efficiency. Based through this process, I made several artworks, and also now there's also, Camille just applied for a grant which is going to involve an industry and other partners to see if it's possible to develop an alternative textile that could be used in that process.
So, because of what you're telling us, you believe in a true collaboration between scientists and artists, or let's call art and science.
Yes, I do. I really do. I believe in collaboration, period, but I think collaboration is not something very easy. And but I think we need, in the current situation in the world, we need those collaborations to happen. And whether it's an art and science or whether it's a collaboration, I don't know, between artists and economists, it would be wonderful. Oh, I don't know, as scientists and economists, I guess maybe it exists to a certain degree. Any kind of collaboration, I think it's very, very important. And what does it mean? It means really, again, working together, and very important factor is listening to one the other, which kind of goes back to what I was saying, how we can have the social transformation, to be more attentive, and then through working together, some ideas, well, basically that's a ground for new ideas.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Today is March 24, 2018. Thank you.
Thank you.